Welcome to Hope Springs Eternal, where we're having positive conversations about the United Methodist Church. Today we're having a conversation with Reverend Ginger Gaines-Cirelli. Reverend Ginger Gaines-Cirelli has been a lifelong member of the United Methodist Church. She is passionate about sharing the good news of God's liberating love in Jesus Christ. In 2014, she became the first woman to serve as senior pastor of the historic Foundry United Methodist Church in Washington, D.C. Ginger has served the Baltimore Washington Conference as chair of the Board of Discipleship and currently serves on the Board of Ordained Ministry. In addition, she has served as an elected delegate to the 2016 conference and the 2019 Special General Conference of the United Methodist Church. Ginger contributed to and served as general editor for the CEB Women's Bible, and her book, Sacred Resistance, A Practical Guide to Christian Witness and Dissent, was released in May of 2018. We hope this conversation blesses you as we continue to have positive conversations about the United Methodist Church. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited to have Pastor Ginger Gaines-Cirelli, who is the senior pastor at Foundry United Methodist Church in Washington, D.C. Ginger, it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you. It's a joy to be with you, and thank you for this ministry.
So my first question for you is just tell me briefly about your call to ministry, as well as how did you become a part of the United Methodist Church?
My mother's family goes back in the United Methodist Church, or the Methodist Church, and then United Methodist Church. Some goes back. So I was born into the church. I was raised in the church, and my call to ministry started, I think, at a very young age, but I was not open to it myself, and so took me a while to give in, even after a couple of years in seminary. So I went to seminary to kind of figure out why I was in seminary, and did not plan to be in ordained ministry at all. And God and colleagues and friends they wouldn't let it go. So so I finally said yes, and it's been a great blessing.
So my next question for you is, why do you love the United Methodist Church, and why do you choose to stay?
When I was in seminary and then after, I had the opportunity, because of where I was in school, to be on the staff of different churches. And it was an ecumenical seminary, and so I had a lot of different influences. And, at the time I was thinking, I can go somewhere else. I can do something different. I don't have to do the thing that I was born into. And then I went and I had great experience. I had learned so many things from working in other denominational settings, and getting to know my colleagues from different denominational traditions. But what I realized was that none of those places, as wonderful as they were and the gifts that they shared, were not my home. And I've really been shaped and formed by the Wesleyan understanding of spiritual growth and growth in love and grace. It is like just deeply ingrained in my being. The way that we hold together the traditions that formed the United Methodist Church, and the fact that we are, in my experience, a community. I grew up in Oklahoma. I now have lived in Washington, D.C. for 25 years. But where I grew up, the church that I was a part of, I experienced as a place where people could grapple with questions, where we were both engaged in deep learning and deep thought and debate, and really grappling with things, and also serving in the community in really intentional ways. So the sort of holistic and inclusive and thoughtful community that we are known for, really, I think, in our deepest tradition, is one of the things that I love best. I also would just say that I've had the opportunity over the last number of years to get to know United Methodists from across the connection, both in this country and elsewhere. And the people are just amazing. I mean, we just have such amazing, beautiful people. It's a beautiful, I used to say, in the midst of some of the worst conflicts leading into the last General Conference, we have such a beautiful church, and that church is there. It's not going anywhere. Um, and I continue to be really proud of the people who are doing the work of ministry, who are following Jesus faithfully, who are passionate about sharing the good news of God's love in Jesus with others, and making a difference for justice and peace in the world. So um, it's a proud tradition, and I don't belong anywhere else.
As our church is going through a lot of transition, and it started and it's going to be beginning, more so as we get close to 2024. What is your hope for the future of the United Methodist Church?
Well, I really hope we can move past this painful conflict sooner rather than later. I think everyone is so weary, and it's been an important conversation, a really painful conversation, and a lot of people have been wounded. I'm in a part of a community that is very diverse in terms of gender identity and sexual orientation, age, class, and everything else. So we've felt this in a particular kind of way, and would really love for us to be able to not have to be focused on this conflict and just continue to be the church that we are and that we're called to be. And as a whole denomination, that we might finally be able to just celebrate and share our Wesleyan spiritual tradition, our head, heart, and hands, like just be who we are and not have to be worrying about these other things. Personal piety, social holiness, and justice, the ways that we can, the famous Wesleyan saying that if we can't think alike, we can love alike. So that's one hope, is just to be able to move past the conflict in a way that allows us to be the church and to be joyful and passionate and engaged, working together to do what it is we're actually called to do, which is to love and serve God and help others do the same. Another real hope that I have is for that we would let go of structures and policies that do harm, that are inequitable and unjust, and really intentionally do the deep work of addressing the long deferred work of racial justice in our denomination, as well as gender justice, gender identity, orientation. It's an ability, like all of the various pieces that we know we need to address. The church needs to be leading on these issues, needs to be modeling what it looks like to be able to honor and lift up, and live together in ways that are loving and just. And we haven't done that as well as we are called to. So my hope is that we'll use this moment of being shaken up and kind of, having to rethink some things to really. I've always said we don't want to waste a good crisis. So I want to make sure that we're taking advantage, and I hope that we'll take advantage of this time to do some of that deep work.
So my final question for you is, there, like you said, there's just people are tired, and there's just been a lot of discouragement and a lot of pain. If a church member, or a clergy person came to you today and said, "I need some encouragement. I need some words of encouragement," what would you share to those people?
Well, several things. The first is, sadly, we've been here before. Our history is one of, divisions, and, we go apart, we come back together, we sort of form and reform. And I'm really sorry that this is happening. I worked hard to try to keep it from happening, and it's happening. And it's not the first time. And we know that God has brought us through to a place, to be the church that we've been, and now something new is happening. And I always like to say, we can hope for the future because we know what God has done in the past. And so we need to trust that God is going to help bring something out of this moment of splintering and pain. For God is a God of new life and resurrection. So I mean, that's really our deepest encouragement, is to have faith in that promise and that reality. And I also would remind people that there are already signs across the connection of in places that are experiencing, um, whole communities where the United Methodist Church is choosing to disaffiliate, and there are people from those communities who are already creating new communities and new faith communities. So this is already starting to happen. United Methodists are organized people generally, disorganized, organized. We get things done. And so if something is there, if there's a need, United Methodists will come together and figure out how to meet it, and God will help us. And the last thing I think would just be to remind us of John Wesley's parting words to us, which is best of all is God is with us. And so we don't have to be afraid. And we need to do what we can do. That's all we can do. We can't fix everything, but we can do our part, and just keep trusting in the promises of God.
Well, thank you so much, Ginger, and thank you so much for those who are watching. I hope this conversation blessed you as much as it blessed me. And thank you again, Ginger, for joining us.
Thank you so much again, Natalie. It's a great ministry you're doing, and it's a gift to the church. So thanks.